Hello and welcome back, everyone. It's just another day in the life as a military wife, and I have, as I said last week, tried to do my best to provide a wide selection of different formats and topics so that the resources that you receive as a listener are as diverse and varied and helpful as possible. With that in mind, this week we're going to talk about some life hacks. I get a lot of questions from other military spouses and just people in general about different things like meal planning and chores and routines with kids, and basically just, how are we going to make our lives a little bit easier from the day to day? And that's what we're going to talk on today. As always, I'm your host, Sam Wolf, and you're listening to Life of a Military Wife. Okay, so like I said, we're going to jump into routines and life hacks today. Basically, one of the most valuable pieces of advice I got from my professors when I was studying family life science was the 80-20 perspective and routines. 80-20 is that we have these ideas and things we want to achieve in our lives, and we're not going to be 100% 100% of the time. It's just not going to happen. We're human. We're going to have off days. But if we're hitting 80% of the time, then that 20% of the time will just work itself out. And by and large, that is a very effective principle when it comes to military life, family life, life in general, especially life with children. And then the other thing is routines versus schedules. I like being organized. I like having lists. I like having things like that. And I used to be really obsessed with schedules, and that caused me so much stress. And again, I had another professor mention the importance of routines versus schedules. Routines are basically objectives that you are working to accomplish in a certain order for a certain time of day specifically. However, they don't have to be done at a specific time exactly. And giving yourself that leeway of, yes, this needs to get done. However, it doesn't have to be done by X time. It is really effective, especially with children. So I have routines for my kids. And that is really helpful because then they know what's expected from them and it's consistent. However, sometimes we sleep in the morning, and sometimes we get up on time, and sometimes, XYZ thing happens, but they know that there are certain set expectations, and that really does help make life just go a lot smoother. So we're going to get into some of those things that just make life go easier today. And the first one, oh my goodness, this is a laundry hack. A friend of mine, another military spouse, told me about, and it has made my life so much easier. So I have got 3 children that are really close in age, and then I've got baby cuteness. And it's really easy to separate baby cuteness's clothes from the other 3 because baby cuteness is just so much younger. Her clothes are so much smaller. But my older 3, especially when you get into things like pants and t-shirts and stuff, they're very, very similar in size. Sometimes they're wearing the same sizes. And so it's hard to distinguish which piece of clothing belongs to which kid, and especially if my husband's trying to help me out and sort through laundry. So I was talking to a friend of mine about this, especially since my kids now wear uniforms for school. I was super stressed out about how I was going to tell their clothes apart. And she said, "Nah, I got you, girly." And this isn't exactly how she said it, but this was the sentiment. She told me about what her mother had done because her and her siblings were close in age too. On the tag for the clothing item, for the oldest kid, there'd be a 1 dot. And for the next kid, there's 2 dots. And for the next kid, there's 3 dots. And I was just like, oh my gosh, that's genius. And so I've done that. I've put dots on my kids' tags. And that way, there are some things that will pass on to the next kid. And when I do, I just add another dot to indicate which kid it is. And so, yeah, some of the boy stuff that goes from one boy to another, I'll just add a dot on, or pants. Those come out in sometimes jeans are jeans. So yeah, we just add a dot. When it moves from one kid to another, when you hand those kids clothes down, you just add a dot. But that way, when my husband's sorting through, he can just look at the tag and go, oh, this is so-and-so's, this is so-and-so's based on how many dots are on the tag. And it is genius. Another one that has made just fun time as a family a little bit easier is whenever we want to have a family movie night, inevitably we always just seem to have spent half an hour to an hour trying to decide what movie to watch. And then you have less time to watch the movie and just have fun. And I was talking with another military family about this, and she's like, oh, we've got a movie jar. And I'm like, oh, that's genius. So they have a jar, and every time someone thinks of a movie that they would like to watch as a family, they write it down and put it in the jar. And that way, when movie night comes, whenever it is for your family, you just pull it out of the jar and that's the movie you watch. And that saves so much time and discussion/debate over what you're going to watch. So I thought that was absolutely genius. So I wanted to pass that little life hack on. The next one is routines and chores. And so there's two major topics I'm going to hit, and this is one of them. I found that routines and having set expectations for my kids is super helpful. And when they were younger, I did this by having pictures. Now they can read, so it's words with pictures, but there's still pictures because I don't know. There are. But here's my expectations and routines for the kids in the morning. They need to get dressed, make their bed, put their dirty clothes in the hamper, eat breakfast, put away their dishes or do their dishes chore, help with laundry, and practice piano. And that is their set expectations they've got to accomplish so that they can then go play. And those aren't really difficult expectations. Those are really basic things. But now, whenever the kids ask, oh, hey, can I go play with a friend? Or, oh, can I play the Switch? Or can I, XYZ thing? I'm like, what about the checklist? Where are you on the checklist? What have you done? And now it's not me having to remember and list everything off. I just refer them to the checklist. I refer them to their routine. When school is in session, things are slightly different. They need to get up, get dressed, make their bed, put their clothes in the hamper, and eat breakfast before school. After school, they do the piano, dishes, and laundry. And so it's different during vacation or weekends versus school days. And that's just going to be how it is. But they still know that expectation is set. And then on weekends, if they want screen time, they need to do 3 of the additional things. They can play outside for 60 minutes, read for 30 minutes, play a board game. So be creative for 30 minutes, which is draw, build Legos, something like that, write a story. Or they can do other writing for 30 minutes. So write in a journal, write a letter, something like that. Do an act of service. And so there's just set expectations. And what having set expectations for yourself and for others does is it just takes away a little bit of that extra mental load that we get sometimes in life. And for example, just having a set routine for me, I know this might sound super, super boring, but I just have a protein drink every morning for breakfast because I love breakfast food, but I'll have breakfast food for dinner sometimes. That's what we'll do. In the morning, I just don't want to have to stop and think and make myself food. I want to be able to get that nutrients right away because I'm hungry right when I wake up. And that's just me. But having a set routine, like I know that, for example, I will go, and this goes into the next one, meal planning. I will plan out the meals for the next 7 days on one day. And then on the next day, I will take all of the recipes for all of the meals for the next 7-day period and break it down by ingredients and make a huge master ingredients list. And then I'll go through the house and look at what we're low on and add that to the list. And then we use an app called Listonic. My husband found it. It's fabulous. We've used it for years. In it, I have a list for meals, and then I have a list for every single store that we shop at regularly. And so that way, if he's ever going to Walmart, he can just check Walmart. And if we're out of something that we normally buy at Walmart, he'll grab it. Or if he's at Costco, he'll grab it. Or if he's at Sprouts or King Super or wherever, or Smith's, or, regular grocery store, commissary, exchange, whatever. I'm listing off a lot of different places that we do and don't shop at regularly, but just to give you an idea. So with that, we've got this ongoing list and it syncs between our phones, which is fabulous. So when I check something off the list, it checks it off on his phone. When he adds something to the list, it adds it to my phone, which makes life super easy, especially when sometimes he goes and gets the groceries. Normally it's me. Day number 1 of the routine, I just make a meal list. Usually means hounding family members to find out what they want to eat. And then the next day, I go through and check for what we're low on pantry-wise and what we need ingredients-wise for that meal list. And then I put it into Listonic so that if my husband's doing the shopping, he can go and get the stuff. Or if I'm not going and doing the shopping, I've got the list all ready to go. And that's really beneficial because I don't know how many times you've walked into a grocery store and you thought, oh, I'm just going to get one thing. And then you're like, oh, but what about that? Oh, what about that? And then you get home and you realize, oh, wait a second. I should have gotten that and I didn't. Yeah, it's just really easy to overspend and not get what you need at the same time when you don't have a list. Having a shopping list is super important for meal planning. Another thing that I tell people for meal planning, because I have friends who very frequently will just get into a rut meal-wise, I love Pinterest. I'm just going to plug that right now. I absolutely love and adore Pinterest. I have a Pinterest board for food recipes and meal ideas, and then I have sub Pinterest boards for different categories like beef dinners, like meat centered dinners, like chicken centered dinners, crock pot meals, sheet pan meals, different types like soups and appetizers. And I've got little mini sub boards for all these sorts of different topics. And I don't get on Pinterest a ton. I do get on more frequently than I probably need to. But when I find a recipe that I love, I will put it on there into one of those categories. And then when we go and use that and we try whatever that is out, if we love it and it ends up being a total hit for the family, that recipe then gets put onto a separate board, which is family favorites. That way I have go-tos when I'm planning those meals. So I've got a list already of meals that we just eat regularly anyway, but then I'm constantly refreshing that supply of meal ideas with ideas from Pinterest or just recipes I get from friends and whatnot. And then once I know that a recipe is really tried and true and we love it, I will put it into that folder of recipes I love in Pinterest. Once we love it, like it's a total set into our routine, it's a go-to meal, I will actually make a physical copy of the recipe and put it into my little recipe box so that I can start teaching kids how to make it and my husband can find the recipe super easy without having to get onto my Pinterest. That has been a huge game changer for us. The other thing I use it for is my spice blends. I really started to realize a lot of meals have a very similar foundation. You'll be surprised when you start going and looking at recipes, how many recipes are just really similar, how many basically chicken and rice in different cultures there are. There's so many different variants. You change the seasonings and the spices and the vegetables, and all of a sudden you've got a whole new meal. And I realized I could do that really easily myself by just coming up with these spice blends, just realizing what spices and seasonings were used together for different types of cuisine. And that has allowed me to really branch out and get more creative with what I make. And another big thing that I have to tell people when I'm talking to them about meal planning is don't be afraid to try something new and be willing to admit it was a failure if it was. There was a time period where I was getting super creative because of health stuff and trying lots of new recipes with lots of unique new ingredients. And one of my kiddos was not so fond of all of that. And I remember trying some recipe hack. And I'm just going to tell you right now, do not use jicama in the place of tortillas when making enchiladas. It did not turn out well. It did not. It was gross. It was nasty. Maybe you will like that. My kids, not so much. Not even me. And so took a bite and I just immediately was like, yeah, we're done, kiddos. Don't worry about that. We will have sandwiches for dinner or something else. Don't you stress that. And you know what? That happens. I think sometimes we get to trying new meals and we feel like we have to find something fabulous every time, that everything's got to be a hit, that it's going to always be amazing. And as you explore and experiment more and find out what your family's likes and dislikes and preferences are, you're going to get to the point where you can look at a recipe and just know, yeah, that's probably a hit. Yeah, that's probably going to be a miss. But it's okay. It's all right if some things are a flop. It's all right. We all have experiences like that. And just accepting that, not everything you try recipe wise and meal wise is going to be a home run. It takes a lot of stress off your shoulders, just knowing that, it's okay. You're going to be human. You're going to be fine. And I feel like that's one of the biggest pep talks I give to people when they're starting this whole meal planning journey, because we plan every single meal of every single day because it makes my life easier. I like being organized. And that may not be for everyone. Maybe you're just going to meal plan your dinners and you're going to wing it for lunch and breakfast. Game. Do it. Spiffy. But for me, meal planning makes my life less stressful because it means I don't have to put as much thought into what I'm feeding my family every single day. I already have a list. I already have a plan. And so I can use that mental energy somewhere else. And that is life changing for me because every single one of these routines I put into place, every single one of these systems I figure out, it means I have to put less day-to-day mental energy in that area because I already have it figured out. Like the kids' routines. I already know what's expected of them. They already know what's expected of them. That's one less thing I have to sit and figure out. And with meals, when it comes time to start prepping what we're having for dinner, I don't have to sit there and try to think and figure it out and look up a recipe and worry that we don't have the ingredients and run to the store last minute because I'm already covered. I made a plan. And if that sounds like a lot of effort for you, I would encourage you to start meal planning for your busy days. So let's say during the week is your busiest days. Just start by planning 5 meals, 5 dinners, not even worrying about lunch and breakfast. Let those things figure themselves out. But start figuring out 5 dinners. And that way, on your busiest day, you already have something to go. And you don't have to come home from work and be tired and still try to figure out what you're going to eat. And if that works out well for you, then maybe you can take it one step further. There's some wonderful ladies that I get together with, and we will all bring different ingredients and we'll make salad kits for our lunches. And that way I don't have to think about what I'm eating for lunch. I just pull out one of my salad kits and eat that. And I'm eating something healthy and it's quick and it's ready to go. Anyway, those are just some of the life hacks that I have found super helpful for me in my life working with my family. Because whether you're a military family, whether it's just you or, it's you and your husband, no matter what your family or living situation looks like, there are just little things that can make life easier. And when we share those things, when we're willing to, um, pass on that knowledge that has helped us out, it makes everyone's lives easier. So, those are a few life hacks that have made just functioning with a family of 6 so much more doable. And I hope that they can help you out. I will put links for Listonic in the description below, but basically just look it up. It's on app. I'll put an image or something. I'll have my husband help me figure it out, but I'll try to get the information for Listonic for you guys in the description. And then hopefully y'all know what Pinterest is. But however you collect your recipes, Pinterest is the best one for me. Do what works for you. And that said, I am still looking for individuals who are interested in being part of the Profiles on a Veteran series for this November. I have a few candidates lining up. Spots are filling, but there are still spots available. And if we can't fit you in and you're a veteran that would like to be on the show, please just contact me. There might be another time or way we can fit you in. So I really want to try to highlight as many of our amazing veterans and what they are accomplishing as I possibly can. That is a huge part of what I'm trying to build with this community, is a place for people to share their experiences and to help encourage and uplift each other. Also, I am looking for contributing stories. I will be throwing it out on X and Facebook, but I'm going to be doing a collaboration episode where I want to pull stories from listeners and share them. I will compile them and share them and read them out for that episode. So please be looking on the social media pages for what those questions are so that you can contact me and contribute what you've got to say on those subjects. Finally, it's just, life is crazy, but we're going to all stick in there and help each other out. And please, let's be the good that we want to see in the world. With all that said, I am your host, Sam Wolf, and you're listening to Life of a Military Wife.